Hello guys, so it's Johan Jordaan here and another exciting episode of 7 at 7 here on Monday night or afternoon, morning, whenever you are watching this. It's going to be interesting. Wait, so before I forget, now we are going to do a special thing. There's loads of people that send me comments and WhatsApps and everything that's asking me, where's the Johan Jordaan, the JJ the thing that makes stuff funny. You guys want to learn a thing at the same time, but you also want to see me being me. So this was quite an interesting challenge. So me and the team of Creed Productions, this is what this has become, had a plan about a thing called the biggest flexes of the Bible. So let's start intro. So the biggest flexes, the biggest flexes of the Bible will come next week. There's so many things that we can talk about. Everyone is working through pain, frustration, sadness, anger, being anxious. And so much to worry about. And while I'm recording this, I'm thinking, should I do biggest flexes or not? And there's so many things that I want to say, need to say, and wondering about. And I talked to a lot of people, and I was like, yeah, okay, cool. What is my experience? What is my stuff that I'm going through, people my age and younger and also older? What is the things that came up in this past time? How is it that you can keep passion in isolation? And I wrote something about that too that I still want to do. I understand waking up in the mornings and hating yourself. I understand waking up in the mornings with the voices running around in your head telling you that you're not enough. The things that you wanted to do yesterday is just failure because you haven't done it. And you're just telling yourself all the depressing things. And it gets harder and harder and harder and harder each time to wake up. Every morning is just like this whole drill and voices everywhere just to get up. And the more and more you do, the more and more it gets actually difficult, because one day you're not achieving what you wanted to achieve that day. You had a list, everything is written down of what you want to get right today, but you wake up tomorrow morning hating yourself because you know you haven't done any of those, maybe one or two, and the fight starts again and again and again. It doesn't matter if you have a job, jobless, if you're where you are at this moment, and I know a lot of people can relate. And there's this thing that came up in me that I said, okay, cool, I want to start the 7 at 7 thing about, you know what, let's talk about stuff. Try to fit it in 7 minutes, and it's difficult. And then it came to a place where, okay, cool, let's start with divine direction, how to get started. And you know what, it works. If you just start somewhere. But starting is easy. It's the endurance after that. Keep going that makes it difficult. And I woke up this week thinking, well, what video should I make for this Monday? Something a bit more uplifted and upbeat. You know what, that is coming, but this is feeling inside of me that just keeps building. So many lessons I've learned. And I started reading this book from Erwin McManus called The Last Arrow. And I have this book, The Last Arrow, in my cupboard, and I haven't read it. And I remember the verses that came up when Erwin did this sermon series, and it's in 2 Kings 13 if you want to go take a whole read at it. But I'm just gonna read through it here, and it's basically this king, and he's in a pickle, and the only person that he has on his side is Elijah, and Elijah, he's one of the prophets, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna go to this dude because we're at war and we need help. And Elijah at that time was dying, and this king really didn't go to him as like, oh, my condolences. It was really more of a thing from, I'm in trouble, I need your God to help me. And the king's name is Joshua, and he came to his deathbed, and he as at Elijah, and Elijah told him, get him a bow and some arrows. That's in verse 15, 2 Kings 13, verse 15. And he did so. Take the bow in your hands, he said to the king of Israel. When you have taken it, Elijah put his hands on the king's hands. Open the east window, he said, and he opened it. Shoot. Elijah said, and he shot. The Lord's arrow of victory, the arrow of victory over Aram. Elijah declared, that's what he said, you will completely destroy the Amorians at Aphek. Then he said, take the arrows, and the king took them. Elijah told him to strike the ground, and he struck it 3 times and stopped. The man of God was angry with him, and he said, you should have struck the ground 5 or 6 times, then you would have defeated Aram and completely destroyed it. But now you will defeat it only 3 times. Elijah died and was buried. And then, that's what happened. They lost. And I started reading the book, and these pictures and images just come to my head. Johan, responsibility. I've got an amazing brother with enormous wisdom, sitting and chatting with him through life decisions and choices, and I want to ask you the same: is, are you really taking responsibility for your life? Because there's moments that I came to that I was thinking, you know what, no, I'm just failing, but actually I was quitting. Like this king, he took the arrow and he struck 3 times and was like, oh, okay, cool, I'm done. How many times did you take your arrow, struck 3 times, and then just stopped? Because the thing with our lives, with you and me, and the problem is we sometimes mistake failing for just quitting. Not taking responsibility for actions, for choices, or whatever it is that you're going through. Because there's always a choice, and this responsibility lies in our hands. Because the thing is, you see, while laying in bed, trying to wake up every morning, trying to stay up all night, just wishful thinking that I don't need to go to sleep because I'm scared to go to sleep, because I know the voices will just come back up again. And through this journey, the Lord really starts speaking into my heart, into my soul, and into who I am. Because even though these dips come, I look at myself in the mirror and I try to break the habit, and I try to improve who is me. I've always tried to do the impossible, and the problem is when I fail or just quit and mistake it for failing, it goes down hard. For most of us, it's this thing of when we go down, it's not just small, and it feels like nobody understands, and I feel so alone. But the truth is, there's a lot of people. Maybe you sitting and watching, and you know you've only struck the arrow in the ground 3 times. Because I've got this realization in my life, and even way back from the beginning when I started doing free running and parkour and adrenaline sports, is I don't fear death. I welcome it in a sense where people say I'm crazy, but it wasn't like I'm trying to kill myself. It was a place where, you know what, with my arrows in my quiver, I don't want anything left, because an arrow needs to be shot. It needs to go somewhere. It can't stay there, because if you come back from war with your quiver full of arrows, you did nothing. And in these past years, I've lost that sense completely. And I've only realized that in this past couple of months. How full is your quiver? Did you strike only 3 times? What is it that you need to take responsibility of? It can be small things. I don't want to die one day with my quiver full. I want to break the habit. I want to be above average. Because the thing is, our average standards have dropped. Our standards of what we believe God tells about us have dropped, and it's mediocre and it's average. We need to lift our standards to know our God speaks greatly of us, and He wants amazing things for us, for you and for me, to actually prosper and smile and grow and to love your work. But sometimes in this mess, you need to go down on your knees, take your arrow, and you need to strike and keep striking without quitting, because it's not failing, you're just giving up. To keep going, to not just have an average standard of how God love is for you, to not just have an average standard of what He did for us, to not just have an average standard in your work, because you're not doing it for boss, you're not doing it for anyone else, you're doing it for Him. When you wash the dishes, you do it with pride, because you're in a household. Even if you're alone, you're a team, and everything needs to work together. And sometimes, even though I feel I'm starting to accomplish something, it feels like I'm accomplishing nothing. And I'm starting to get agitated. And the funny thing is, it took me a while to get to a point that I'm actually thinking, you know what, I'm starting getting agitated. But like I said in the previous series, is you need to start somewhere, whatever that place may be, to get fixed habits in your life. Waking up, doing certain things every day and keeping at it. And I said, do Bible study is one of those habits. Because habits forms a core structure in your life, because when you hit the ground, and life is interesting enough, it keeps doing that, then you know you've got a foundation of Jesus' love. You've got a foundation of core structures that you can work on. When you hit that ground, you know God is there. Because if you keep doing what you're doing now, when you hit that ground, it's difficult. No, that's an understatement. So, start taking responsibility. Doesn't matter what age you are, where you're from, what you're doing, if you've got a job, not a job. There's always a possibility. There's always a way. Always. Because most of the times, the excuses you come up with, oh, because I couldn't do this or that got in the way, they are excuses. You gave up like the king did. You hit the ground 3 times and you stopped. You're like, oh, okay, cool, help me. Someone else needs to do it now. Here's the arrow. It wasn't failure. It was just quitting. And yes, sometimes we do fail. There is failure. But sometimes, most of the times, we mistake failure for quitting. So I want to ask you, take that arrow, leave nothing behind in your quiver, because it's such a beautiful moment. When that king pulled that arrow, Elijah came and put his hands upon him. And God is there with you, because when you pull that arrow into life, God is holding your hands. Because when that arrow flies, you know you've done everything you can. And when you shoot it, it's like, God, it's your turn. Because He gave you skills, He gave you responsibility, He gave you a lot of awesome, amazing things in your character and personality to do certain things. And you're like, okay, cool, God, I've done everything I can, now it's your turn. I've said a lot of things. And this is not the way this video is supposed to go. But it's just things on my mind. It's not something that I've actually sit and written out or really put it into detail with beginning, middle and end. It's something that I feel that we all share, that pain, and a lot of people got it right. And a lot of people, you know what, they've got that foundation and stability, and they work through it, and when they hit the ground it seems so easy. You're not alone. Just remember that. Get people around you that can help you wherever you are. And believe me, it works. So this was 7 at 7, and remember to start, but not just that. Remember to keep on striking. God bless, and I'll see you guys next week.